Okay, so we're going to try a couple of things here. Maybe make things better, I don't know. But we're finally getting to the main event here, I think, that started this whole operation. And I'm mucking around with my microphone now. So anyway, and yeah, the camera is still hokey. It'll probably be, I'll be finished with this before the new one comes in. Not that I'm expecting much. Anyway, we're going to start shooting bullets. We need to start shooting bullets. This, what did we do? Last time it was just moving the buttons. That's what this is here. And I am going to make a copy of this one. And I'm going to call it Lesson 4, Bullets. You can see that I actually have already done it, so I know what the heck I was doing, hopefully. Alright, so we're going to go down, we're going to start we're going to add, alright, this is in our setup, and here's our button setup, our initialization for our buttons, or not even the initialization, so declarations, sorry, our declarations for our buttons. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is figure out what I'm looking at. Okay, because we have X, here it is here. That's why I'm confused. I've got these declarations down here above my loop. And I want to move this up here with the rest of everybody to get them all together. Alright, so we got our X and Y, and we've got our enemy X. We don't have a enemy Y because we're still just zooming it down the center of the screen there. So that'll be a let's see, screen height, screen width. Let's do that as long as we're thinking around here. We're going to make this enemy Y, enemy Y, yeah. So we're going to go back up here under enemy X, and we're going to add an enemy Y. And the problem is we do not have the display initialized up here, so we can't use that, but we do have it defined as a screen width, screen height, and so we'll use this screen height instead of getting it since we defined it. Okay, so we've got the screen height minus the logo height divided by 2, so that puts it right in the middle of the screen. You can see it cruising there in the middle of the screen. We did that before. So what we're going to do now is enemy X and enemy Y. We are going to add, this code is going to be going into, oh my gosh, what on earth have I got here? I guess I have done quite a bit of rearranging since I wrote this one, and I've got it written a different way now, and I want to correct this, make it easier to read. Obfuscation is important, so we're going to get rid of our serial printout here because I'm tired of looking at it, and we're going to, instead of having a separate check for the rocket height, we can just stop it by doing something similar up here in the I'm going to pull this. Okay, so up here we're going to, when we test, we can stop it here if the button is pressed and the value of y is greater than a negative rocket height divided by 2. See, we're going to move this up here. If it's greater than the negative rocket height, okay, you see right here where we were forcing it to stay at that location. Up here we're going to check to see if it's at that location. If it's at that location, then we're not going to do anything. So we'll be able to get rid of all that and make it a nice compact looking little line here that we can see easier. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to check to see if it is the less than the screen height and less than the screen height. Divided by 2. So that should in effect do the exact same thing, just a little bit, I want to say clearer or not as messy. Is that more obfuscation or less? Let me know your opinion. So also what I'm going to do here, you see we've only got the 2 buttons. We have the all 4 buttons defined. We had them before. Who knows what I've been doing? Okay, so we got button 1, button 2, button 3, button 4, and again button 4 is we're not doing anything here yet. I mean button 3, we're not doing anything here yet, but I want to have it there. And button 4 is where we're going to do bullet stuff. Okay, let me check. We need to do some initialization for the bullets, but I wanted to get that organized first. Okay, so again, this is just a copy of our lesson 3 that we're modifying. We should be at that point, and we've got to add, we're going to do some funky stuff down here. We're going to add a debounce. That'll make more sense when we get down there. So we're going to do int debounce button. And the reason we are, you know, we can make this a Boolean. That would make more sense if we set it as a Boolean. Let's do that. I'm changing my code already. We're going to make it a false, and we're going to set it to true whenever we press the button, because we are only going to allow the button, when you press the button, to shoot 1 bullet at a time. Okay, so we have a debounce button, and we need to have an array of buttons. and it's going to be a Boolean, and not a buttons, bullets, and it's going to be an array of, we're going to only be able to load 10 bullets at a time, and we are going to initialize it to, to 0, and we need the location of the bullets, and we're going to call it bullet X, and we're going to have an array of 10 bullets, 10 X locations, and we're going to initialize those to 0, and int by 10 and 0. Okay, so we have, and we need a bullet counter to keep track of how many bullets we have loaded and shot and all that good stuff. Okay, let's leave it at that for right now. We haven't gotten to another lesson. Next lesson we'll do hits and miss. This lesson we're just going to be shooting bullets. Okay, so then we've got all that ready, and we're going to go down here into the setup, and we don't need to do anything in setup. I'm dreaming over here, making sure I'm not missing anything. I feel like I'm missing something, but don't worry, the compiler will totally destroy us when we try to do something. And okay, so down here in our if, and this is what I was talking about, the debounce. We're going to say if the debounce button is equal to 0, is false, then we're going to do stuff in here. Okay, so this is going to check to see if the debounce button is false, and we're going to put an else down here at the end of this reading the button, and we are going to set the debounce yeah, we're going to set the debounce button to false. Okay, bear with me. Alright, so we're checking to see if the debounce button is false. If it's false, then we're going to set the debounce button to true. That way, when you're holding down the button, it's going to keep setting it to true, so you cannot shoot a second button, a second bullet. You'll have to let off of the button before it will set that debounce back to false, and we can go back in and do this. Yes, it will work. Alright, so we've got the button set to true. Now then, to the bullets. Okay, how many bullets? Let's load a bullet. Bullet counter equals true. Okay, now going into this, yes, I can spell. Going into this, our bullet counter is set at 0. So we press the button, and our bullet counter is 0, so the first element in this array is going to be set to true, which is element 0, because remember, we said 10 items. Okay, 0 is a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Gives us 10 elements because we count 0, right, in our arrays. So that's an FYI there. BX, we have the BX, so we're going to load the first location is bullet counter. And that is equal to X, which is the location of our rocket. You can see down here, X. So we're telling it wherever the rocket is at, plus the rocket width. That is not correct because, remember, let me get a pointer here, something I can point with. Because you see over here, the nose of our rocket, remember this is 0 over here. And so our rocket, the nose of our rocket is at X, if I could get my little pointer there. The nose of our rocket, good grief, the nose of our rocket is at X. So we don't need to add, that's putting it back at the butt. So we want this X to be at the nose of the rocket. Okay, and then BY is bullet counter, which is our index, equals the Y of the rocket. But remember, the Y of the rocket is the upper right hand corner of that rocket. So we want it to be the Y, and the Y, remember, is the vertical axis. So we need it down in the middle of that rocket. So we are going to use the rocket height divided by 2 to put it in the middle of the rocket. Okay. And now counter, oops, if I could spell, bullet counter, increment. We are going to increment our bullet counter. We have 0 at index 0 loaded up with our, we have a bullet, which is true. We have loaded our X and our Y coordinates at index 0. So now we need to increment it, so in case there is another bullet press. Okay, but we've got a situation here. If our bullet counter equals 10, because remember, we go through 0 to 9. We don't use 10. If it equals 10, then we're in trouble. We'll be out of our index out of range. And so we want to make bullet counter equal 0 and start over again. We're not allowed to have more than 10 bullets. And don't worry, that's plenty of bullets. Our little guy, okay, and we've got our debounce equals false. So that is the process of loading the bullets. We've got the bullets loaded, and now we've got to shoot the darn things. All right, so we're going to go through our bullet array by saying for int I equal 0, I, while I is less than 10, I like things close, 10, less than 10, then we are going to increment to the next one. Alright, and what we're going to do here is if bullet I is true. Then bullet X be X, I, how do you spell I? I equals BX I minus 4. We're going to move it 4 pixels to the right. So remember, this is in our loop. This is happening every time we go through the loop. So this is making the bullet. This is actually what is moving the bullet across the screen. Okay? And we only need to change the x-axis. We don't need to change the y-axis. We only need to change the x-axis. So this is what we're doing here, is moving the bullet. But we want to check if BX I is greater than, greater than 0. What happens when it's 0? When it's 0, it hits the edge of our screen. So we don't want it, if it's off the screen, we don't want that. We don't want to see that bullet. Well, we won't see that bullet because it's off the screen. So we want to get it out of our vision. We'll deal with that in a second. So if it's greater than 0, if it's still on the screen, that's what I'm saying. If it goes less than 0, it's off the screen. If it's greater than 0, we want to see it do something. So we're going to, for clarity, let's put brackets on it. We're going to display dot draw circle at BX I BY I, and we're going to use a radius of 1, and the color is going to be white, which is actually a value of a 1. You could put a 1 there. I think we might do that down here. Yeah, you see where we're drawing the bitmap, we're using a 1 instead of saying white. We could say white. I mean, the point is our screens are black and white, so we're only going to be using this. We could have made a variable up at the top or something anyway, but in our Adafruit, somewhere in our Adafruit GFX or the SSD 360, white is defined. There it is. It tells us right there. It's in the it's defined as white as SSD 1306 underscore white. We could have put SSD 1306 underscore white, but white is defined, so that's pretty cool. Somewhere in their code they have that defined for us. Alright, so we are displaying our circle, our little tiny circle, if it's on the screen, and if it's not on the screen, else we are going to bullet I equal false. We're going to set that bullet to false because we don't need it anymore because it's gone off the screen. That's what this is saying right here. If it's less than 0, it's going to bounce down here to this else, and we're going to set that to false. Okay, so then we have shot our bullet. We should be ready. Let's see if we have any compile errors. Oh my gosh, blew up right away. Debounce but expected. Look at that. Oh my gosh, it's always that. Always a semicolon. Somewhere. I always forget a semicolon. Hey, quit that. I don't know what it's doing up there. Can I move this? Oh, that fixed it. Oh, now what? Before token. I can't see it. This doesn't have a, let's see what line, 66, here it is. Primary expression before token. Oh my gosh. Button 2, why? I always say third time's a charm. Sometimes it turns out to be the fifth or sixth time, but yep, there it is. Good grief. Yep. The troubleshooting's the best part of these videos, isn't it? Good grief. La 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 la. Feel free to comment on the video that you're sick of watching me troubleshoot my videos, and I'm trying to do this as live as possible. Even got notes here. Still can't even do it right with my notes. We'll see if we're shooting bullets now. Okay, so we still have okay, looks like I forgot something. What did I forget? Why are our bullets not shooting? Go through my notes. Okay, so we have everything's defined, or it would not be working as far as it is, because we have our arrays. We wouldn't be down to where we are if it wasn't working. Okay, is there something in the setup? Nope, the setup is all correct. That's the whole setup there. Yeah. Okay. Then we see our buttons are still working, so we're going up and down. We can add a serial print in here to make sure we're shooting the buttons. We're loading the button anyway, so let's put a serial print here. So we'll check that first while we go through the rest of our code here. Let's see, we are debouncing is false, and debouncing is true. Bullet counter, true. X and Y and bullet counter and get our serial. Okay, so we're shooting the bullets. I have a feeling that they're not displaying for some reason. If bullet counter equals 10, well, that's what we didn't. Let's see, where are we here? Yeah, let's leave that in. Okay, we're going to go down here. If bullet equals true, for I equals 1 while I is less than increment. If bullet is true, then B1 minus 4. Let me know if you figure out my mistake before I figure out my mistake. Okay. And we're going to do this. We're just going to see what I is doing here. And it should be pretty crazy. We're just going to see zeros and ones. Okay. I found the problem. Oh my gosh. Stop the show. Look here. I'm clearing the display before it even gets there. I had already corrected that in my workings on them. So the best thing to do, whatever. That was a dumb. Where is it? This is a dumb serial print because all it's doing is counting through those. It's not showing us our bullet load. I should have put the serial print down there. And this one I'm going to get rid of because what we're going to do is move our clear display to the very beginning of our loop where it makes sense, because that's when we're going to start doing stuff. Alright? Yeah. Okay. So I'll be curious if somebody spotted that before I did, which took me 30 minutes to spot the darn thing. And like I said, I had gone through that exact same problem before even displaying the enemy ships, and I'll show you, because we're going to clean all this up here next. I'll say next once the bullets are shooting, which they're going to be shooting. We're going to be shooting bullets. Right. Come on. There we go. Pew, 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 pew. What is it doing up there? Ah ha ha ha. Ah ha 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 ha. I'm stuck. Oh, there he is all the way up there. Okay. Oh, it's supposed to be pew, 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 pew. Actually, that's another funny story. Okay, so I'm tired of looking at the screen there. Okay, we got this one correct. We got the rocket height at the right place, and we're subtracting rocket height, and because we're going from top to the bottom, we got to add the rocket height instead of subtracting it. Okay, so here we go again. Ha 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 ha. Okay, how long was that video? Long enough. Alright, so we got shooting bullets. No, we're not done yet. We have to do one more thing. Okay, this section here is loading the bullets. Okay, oh, not that. We got to leave our debounce there. Okay, but we're going to need to clean up this mess. So, Control X, loading bullets. So we're going to go down here and we're going to make a method, void, it doesn't return anything, and it is loading bullets, got it names correct, okay, oops, and we're going to paste everything in here that we just created. So that's loading the bullets, and we're going to move all this out of here. And we call it shooting the bullets. And we're going to go down here, put it underneath here. Doesn't return anything. Did I spell it right? Let me get all my capitals. Yes. Okay, and we're shooting the bullets. So we load the bullets in here when we press the button, and we just shoot the bullets and see how we do now. I think it's curious how the little ship shows up blue on the screen. I hope a better camera will make things look better than that, but at least we've got that. I mean, otherwise it would be a lot of crazy editing. I was looking to see how long we've been going. 40 minutes? Seriously? Oh my gosh. Alright, so we've got to make sure this is still working. We totally lost everything. Alright folks, what did I do wrong? That should have worked first try. fingers. Okay, so we're loading and shooting. You know what? Sometimes I'm having trouble with my processor restarting, but well, you see it's frozen. It should work. Sometimes it doesn't load the program, so I have to unplug my serial port. You see it's still frozen. It's still sitting there frozen. I bet money that's what happened, that it was actually working. Yeah, it was working. Okay, so next video we're going to do collisions. We got our little pew 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 going. Sorry about the long video as usual. It's been real, it's been fun, but it ain't been real fun. So next time.